And welcome to another Warrior Creed live stream with me, the radical Majid Nawaz. And today's episode, as you may have well guessed, the chaos in the Labour Party as Prime Minister Starmer is doomed. It is appearing increasingly likely, as we suggested in last week's stream, that after the devastating destruction that was wrought upon the Labour Party in these nationwide UK elections over the last week, Keir Starmer's position is looking increasingly untenable as leader of the Labour Party and therefore as Prime Minister. The political cartoon for today's stream is this one on your screens now. That is an image of Keir Starmer in a presumably a train station, pointing at the departures board, which is completely blank, with Starmer saying, "I have no timetable," and underneath him a Labour bus looking very tattered and broken down, with Starmer and his top team in the bus. It appears to be Gordon Brown. I think they're in the middle with him. It says this is the replacement bus service. And of course, everybody knows that whatever Starmer attempts to do, it won't necessarily fix the problem. That cartoon there for you by Peter Brooks. We found it particularly appropriate for today's stream. So today we are discussing the crisis in the Labour Party. Won't spend too much time on this because it's still unfolding as we speak. Jess Phillips has just tendered her resignation. Andy Burnham, the man that looks most likely to be the favourite for the soft left on the Labour Party, has returned to London from Manchester. He was, of course, the former mayor for Labour in Manchester, stood down so that he could be in this position to challenge Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer previously blocked his re-election in any Labour by-election, so that he doesn't have a seat currently in Parliament. To be able to challenge Starmer, he needs a seat. There is talk of MPs being willing to stand down so that Andy Burnham can stand in their seat in a by-election. He could well be in that position to do so as early as Tuesday. That's all the chatter around this, but Starmer is most certainly doomed. That is the topic for today's live stream. Don't go anywhere. We'll be coming right back to you after the opening credits.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge. Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
Welcome back. And yes, the topic for today's live stream, this is the Warrior Creed live stream with the radical Majid Nawaz. The topic for today on your screens: Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, is most certainly doomed. His political career has pretty much hit a dead end. He is a lame duck Prime Minister. He is on his way out. There will be an internal leadership challenge, a coup, if you like, against the Labour leader and Prime Minister Keir Starmer after the devastating nationwide local election results in the United Kingdom, in which Keir Starmer's Labour Party was utterly hammered, as we said it would be in last week's stream. The political cartoon for today's stream is on your screens now. It is an image of Keir Starmer standing presumably in a train station next to a blank departures board with no time, no destination on the board, and Starmer saying, "I have no timetable." Underneath is what appears to be a rail bus replacement service, looking very tattered and broken down, a red Labour bus with the word Labour painted on it. Inside is Keir Starmer. Presumably in the middle there is Gordon Brown. It says this is the replacement bus service. In other words, it ain't doing the job. That cartoon by Peter Brooks. Really apt for the topic today, because it is very clear to us that Keir Starmer is doomed. As we said in last week's live stream, Labour would be utterly devastated in these nationwide local elections. That's precisely what happened. Keir Starmer lost. Didn't the late? I mean, what didn't he lose is the question. The red wall went to Reform, exactly as we said it would last week, and of course the hardcore Labour youth vote in their strongholds in what could only be described as a Labour heartland, such as Hackney, went completely green. In other words, this was a populist vote against the incumbents and against the uni party, against the two-party system, against the establishment, globalist parties, the Labour Party under Keir Starmer, the party in government, and the Conservative Party, which was previously in government. The voters rejected them both at the ballot box, exactly as we said would happen last week. That is the stream for today. The latest news. We won't spend too long with you on the stream today, not least because events are unfolding as we speak, and we, by the end of this stream, have to end promptly by 4:15 so that we can get changed quickly and head over to the GB News studios with Michelle Dewberry, where we've been confirmed to appear on the Dubes & Co show for the hour to comment on the same topic as today's stream, and that is that Keir Starmer is finished. He's toast. There's no way he's getting through this. The events are, as we say, unfolding as we speak. So we haven't yet developed into a full-blown leadership contest, but it's only a matter of time. On your screens now, you see the Times headline from today, and that is that the latest, Jess Phillips has resigned. You can see the Times with the headline, Jess Phillips resigns after PM vows to fight on. Subheaded, the safeguarding minister and Alex Davies-Jones, the minister for victims, are the latest members of government to leave as pressure mounts on Starmer. That's from the Times today at the 12th of May. That's on your screens now. And we're going to show you Jess Phillips' resignation letter. It's here. Breaking: safeguarding minister Jess Phillips has resigned from Keir Starmer's government. Here is the resignation letter. This will be included in tomorrow's written version of this stream, and that's the written version of the Radical Dispatch. For the moment, for the purposes of the live stream, we're just going to read a bit of the letter for you while we have it up, but we won't keep it on the screens there for you, so at least it doesn't bore you just sitting there as text, but we will read it for everybody. It says, this is from Jess Phillips, safeguarding minister who's just resigned from the Labour government, to Keir Starmer. This is her resignation letter. It says, Dear Keir, I want to start by first saying that we have worked closely together on violence against women and girls for many years, and I have no doubt you have genuine knowledge and desire to rectify this dreadful social ill. We have started to make steps towards change whilst in government, and I have been grateful for your support. However, it would be remiss of me not to say that real change and direction in this area usually came from threats made by me in light of catastrophic mistakes. The Mandelson saga, whenever it bubbled up, made Number 10 kick into gear on the subject in order to prove our credentials. I will never waste a crisis to make advancements for women and girls, and so demands were made and some were met. I think you are a good man fundamentally, who cares about the right things. However, I've seen firsthand how that is not enough. The desire not to have an argument means we rarely make an argument, leaving opportunities for progress stalled and delayed. Over a year ago, I presented solutions long worked on by brilliant civil servants that would end the ability for children in the UK to take naked images of themselves. 91% of online child sex abuse is self-generated by children groomed, tricked, and exploited into abuse. The technology exists to stop children being able to take naked images of themselves. We would make this possible on every phone and device in the country. We could stop this abuse. It has taken me a year to get you to agree to even threaten to legislate in this space. Not legislate, just threaten. Let me read that again. Jess Phillips says about child abuse. It has taken me a year to get you to agree to even threaten to legislate in this space. Not legislate, just threaten. This is the definition of incremental change. Nothing bold about it. The announcement was meant to be in March. I'm still on a promise this will happen in June. I've given up believing it. How many children were left without a safety net in the time we dilly-dallied and worried about tech bosses? This is just one example. Labour governments come around rarely as the constant refrain at the moment. It's true they are precious. Every Labour government in my and my family's lifetime has forged progress that changed our country and the world for the better. I know you care deeply, but deeds, not words, are what matter. I'm not sure we are grasping this rare opportunity with a gusto that's needed, and I cannot keep waiting around for a crisis to push for faster progress. Decency is vital. Calm curiosity is also needed, but so too are fight and drive required. Have a row, push back, make arguments, bring people along. Standing up and being counted can't always be workshopped. Politics is as much about feelings as policy, especially at the moment. I want a Labour government to work, and I will strive, as I always have, for its success and popularity. But I'm not seeing the change I think and the country expect. I'm not seeing the change I think I and the country expect, and so cannot continue to serve as a minister under the current leadership. Best wishes, Jess Phillips. Now, That is quite a damning letter, resignation letter, by the Women for Safeguarding. Keep in mind, the minister, sorry, for safeguarding. Keep in mind, this is safeguarding children from child sexual abuse, underage grooming, underage rape grooming gangs, as well as the Mandelson and Epstein saga mentioned in the letter. So this is particularly damning for Starmer. As we're going to come to in some of our analysis, it wasn't just the Labour strongholds in its heartlands of, say, East London, that Labour suffered devastating defeats due to their foreign policy largely and human rights silence on wars abroad. That was one element. But in the Red Wall, those Brexit voting uh, white working class voters who are socially conservative and yet to the left of centre economically, who used to vote Labour, who Keir Starmer managed to get back in the 2024 election after they abandoned Labour in 2019 after Brexit. Those same voters re-abandoned Labour. And they did so not on the soft human rights, um, gender rights, foreign wars, Gaza, Palestine, not on that agenda. That was the Labour heartlands that lost on that agenda. But as Jess Phillips' letter points to, where Labour lost in those heartlands, those Brexit voters, the white working classes, Labour lost to them on the crime and citizenship and immigration agenda. The immigration has a direct impact in their communities because, of course, what it does is it introduces wage competition into the working classes. Those formerly Labour voters are conscious enough of their own class and status in society to have become awakened by that as a threat to their own earning ability or purchasing power. Now, this is not some cookie racist argument. This is a perfectly valid left-wing argument, talking, of course, of the difference between international socialism, as represented. This dispute goes all the way back even into the USSR, as represented by those who subscribe to the Communist International brand of left-wing politics, where every global citizen is indeed a equal citizen of the world, and borders should be completely erased. And then, of course, this debate includes those who are socialists, not communists, who believe, in fact, that the nation state can be used for good and prioritize the class rights of those who happen to be citizens of their country. So when wage competition is introduced into those formerly Labour voting Northern Red Wall seats, those workers who lose out from cheaper wages are very upset with Keir Starmer and the Labour Party due to immigration. And that immigration also has knock-on effects in terms of crime and in particular sexual crime. And so it's the underage rape, so-called grooming gang controversy that the Labour councils in the North were perfectly complicit in, that has caused real damage to Keir Starmer's ability to continue standing for the Labour Party in those areas. And that's why it was important that Jess Phillips' letter mentioned the child abuse in the letter, because it's an area that has caused significant damage to the Labour Party, as we said in last week's stream, due to two issues. Number one was the underage rape grooming gangs, which of course Labour councils were complicit in. And number two was the Mandelson controversy, and Keir Starmer having decided to appoint Lord Mandelson as our ambassador to Washington, D.C., despite knowing of Mandelson's association with Epstein and despite Mandelson having not succeeded in clearing his security clearance for that post. And so those two examples, both in the case of underage grooming and child sexual abuse, they had a huge impact on the Labour vote in those Red Wall areas. And that's why it was important that Jess Phillips' letter mentioned it. It is a devastating blow to Starmer. She has touched in that letter on the heart of the issue of why Starmer is losing the Labour vote in Wales and in the Red Wall, Midlands and Northern seats, because anywhere outside of the liberal elite, metropolitan, socialist, champagne socialist, lefty-lovey vote of London, of course, that went green, because it has the privilege and the luxury to worry about foreign policy because it's happy at home, which is why that vote went green. But any area other than that, including Wales, the Midlands and the North, that formerly voted Labour, went to reform on the issue of immigration and associated social and criminal ills, such as underage rape, grooming, and child sexual abuse. And we said this in last week's stream. And this is, of course, confirmed in Jess Phillips' letter, Minister for Safeguarding. It is a devastating blow to Keir Starmer. And, of course, it's explained by what we've just gone into, and that is the fact that they are socially conservative voters, and they are less interested in worrying about foreign policy. They're more interested in what is immediately in front of them in their communities, which is decaying towns and cities, especially in Wales, where you can see it very clearly, and of course up north. They all went reform. They were former Labour voters. They all went reform. It is too much damage for Starmer to be able to sustain, and that is, of course, why Andy Burnham has decided to depart from the north, cancel a speech he was due to give, and come down to London. That is on your screens now as the Times reports. From today, you can see that 12th of May 2026, Andy Burnham arrives in London as Minister supports Westminster return. He is widely tipped to be the favourite of the soft left in the Labour Party to replace Keir Starmer. The subheading, Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, has joined Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, in support of the Mayor in the event of Keir Starmer's resignation. That's the Mayor, Andy Burnham, of course, formerly Mayor of Greater Manchester. Now, to read an extract from the Times, that's on your screens now. The bold at the bottom is what we're going to read. It says, a source in the Burnham camp said he had an MP willing to stand down to allow him to return to Parliament, and an announcement could be made as soon as Tuesday. So that's an expectation. It is as of yet unconfirmed. And so, of course, that is not something that has happened yet, but the Times is speculating that that is something that could happen on Tuesday, and that is that it could be announced that Burnham is indeed going to have a by-election to stand in, but that's all unfolding as we speak. Now, those of you who remember last week's stream will remember this was exactly the result that we predicted, and that is, of course, Labour strongholds going green and independent, and Brexit voter areas, the red wall areas, going reform. That's exactly the result that we predicted in the stream, which is, and the Radical Dispatch from last week, saying UK local elections from 6th of May, Muslim vote to destroy Labour strongholds, in which we said Labour are finished. We're just going to quickly play that again for you so you can see that it's unfolded as expected. Finished in particular during the course of this live stream with this opening graphic for you on the screens. Labour are finished. We're going to break it down for you in the following way. As you should see for today's stream, Warrior Creed live stream, and that is UK local elections, Muslim vote to destroy Labour strongholds. And really what today will be about will be to break down how exactly that's going to happen, and demonstrate how the general sentiment of the Muslim vote in the UK will end up damaging the Labour Party most of all, first and foremost. And then after that, of course, there will be some other interesting observations to make. But of course, as should be clear by now, the elections are coming up in 2 days' time. That's the nationwide UK local elections on the 7th of May 2026. It is going to mark a significant shift in the United Kingdom away from Keir Starmer's Labour Party and towards more populist parties. In the Labour strongholds, this shift is likely to be reflected in the form of the vote for the Green Party as a viable alternative for Labour voters, headed by Zach Polanski. And in those Conservative Party areas, as well as, interestingly, Labour red wall areas in the Midlands and the North, the populist shift is expected to go strongly towards the Reform Party. And of course, that's exactly what happened. That was from, as you heard in the video, from 2 days prior to the elections themselves. And just to quickly show you this, are you therefore surprised that Elon Musk's Twitter continues to hide that live stream? There you can see an image of the live stream on the Twitter page, and it's just a link where all other live streams are embedded videos that autoplay. Elon Musk's Twitter continues to hide Warrior Creed. It doesn't want people watching it on live replay after the fact for whatever reason, probably because it gets more views if the video is embedded. As you can see, that's just a link. So our unfair shadow banning continues on Twitter. But nevertheless, that is what you just heard us say there in last week's stream is exactly what happened. There you can see our immediate reaction by Felicia. The results aren't even halfway through yet. And this is a visual image of exactly how those results played out. The huge plunge in the red line there is the Labour vote. The huge rise there in the turquoise line is the Reform vote. And of course, you can see the green line rising as well and the blue Tory line dropping right down too. And that is a nice depiction of exactly how the election went. And as you can see from GB Politics, New Labour has not gained a single council seat so far in those elections, with over 1,000 results declared. That's how it panned out. It was truly a humiliation for Keir Starmer, and it's why Keir Starmer's time as leader of the Labour Party is doomed. It's over. Of course, the question around whoever replaces him, would they be able to lead the Labour Party into whenever there's a general election? It doesn't necessarily doesn't go hand in hand that just simply replacing the leader fixes any of the problems. Keir Starmer's own rather clumsy attempt to fix the problem was to refocus on rejoining the EU and undoing Brexit, which of course is completely tone deaf because all those red wall voters are the very voters that voted for Brexit. They're the ones Starmer needs to win back. It was the most dumb response that anybody could think of, and nevertheless it was a response by Keir Starmer after the election defeat, and it will indeed fail to assuage any concerns, and Labour will continue to plummet. But it isn't just the Labour Party that's in trouble. And this brings us finally to the next point here before we conclude, because we have to rush off. As we said, join us on Michelle Dewberry's show, Dubes & Co. for tonight, 6 to 7 p.m. live on GB News, commenting on this topic. We have to leave, therefore, in 15 minutes to be able to get changed quickly and get there on time. But that's why we're going to rush through today's stream. But implications were also severe for the Conservative Party. And you can see that on your screens now as well. And that is that the Nigel Farage has posted, Reform is currently winning 1 in 3 seats all over the country. We're truly a national party and here to stay. Our response has been immediate there. Well done and well deserved. But the interesting thing was this post by Farage. Kemi Badenoch speaks of renewal of the Conservatives. Well, she would lose her own seat of Northwest Essex based on these Essex County Council results, and our immediate reaction to that announcement there. You can see our response there. Essex boys, being from born and raised in Southend as I am, and here is Nigel Farage announcing the complete takeover of Essex by the Reform Party. In other words, the complete devastation of the Conservatives in their own heartlands, just as Labour were devastated by the Greens in their heartlands.
It was the way in which Reform were crushing the Labour vote in the Red Wall, traditional Labour areas in the north of England. Well, here's a story today that's as big, if not in some ways even bigger. It's the county of Essex. Think about it. Half the shadow cabinet represent Essex seats. The leader, Kemi Badenoch, represents Northwest Essex in the House of Commons. We have just taken control of Essex County Council, and there are many more seats to come. It's going to be a big majority. We're getting huge percentages. We've literally wiped out the Conservative Party in Essex, and the leader, Kemi Badenoch, would not even hold her seat.
Well, there you have it. It's a complete wipeout for the Tories in Essex. So Labour has suffered huge losses, and it stings more for Labour because, of course, they are the party of government. However, the Conservative Party has also suffered huge losses also to Reform. And what this really points to, it's rather obvious, and that is that the two-party system is finally over. And of course, what that also means is the uni-party system that the two-party system evolved into is finally over. And that is something that our immediate reaction also captured. And what we're going to show you very quickly before we conclude today's stream is a visual depiction of the seats breakdown and distribution, so that you can see something striking that we would reflect on when looking at this issue of the two-party system finally being over, the uni-party system finally being over. This particular graphic is interesting that's on your screens now because it's the full council election results in England. You can see the top bar there at 1,453. That's Reform UK, the turquoise colour. That's under the heading Seats 1 on the top left. That's Reform's turquoise bar at the top. Seats 1, Reform UK 1,453. And you can see next to that, to the right of it, at the top of the graph, the heading net change in seats. And you can see Reform UK, top turquoise bar again, plus 1,384. So that's the change in seats, the increase. It's incredible if you can see the increase there, because that's the one we'd like you to look at. The Seats 1 is good enough, but of course that includes the seats already held and re-won. But this next one on the right, top right there, that's the net change in seats. That's the new Seats 1, the increase. And you can see a beautiful fat turquoise bar at the top there for Reform UK at 1,384 net change in seats. And this is why this one is important, because look to the bottom of that top right corner, and you can see the red bar for Labour in the net change in seats category, and it's a huge drop at over 1,200. It's the huge drop. The largest drop in seats indeed in this election was for the Labour Party. But also interestingly, you can see the huge drop in the Conservatives in their net change in seats. They lost 429 seats. And of course, that was roughly the around the increase of the Greens at the second bar from the top there under net change in seats. And that is the Greens, who also got plus 403 seats. So that net change in seats one is a stark example of just how destroyed the two-party system, which emerged into the uni-party system, has become. Of course, the other interesting observation from this graph is in the bottom left. If you take a look at that, this we found fascinating. Councils in control. Look at that. 64 councils have no overall control. That's in the bottom left of the graph. The top bar of the bottom left category, councils in control, is fully grey. That's 64 bar grey, 64 seats. It's headed no overall control. That's how many councils have lost overall control. That's a net change of no overall control. If you now move to the bottom right, net change in councils, again, the grey bar at the top, 23 extra councils during this election have moved from being controlled by one of the two larger parties, the Tories or the Labour Party, into now no overall control. Southend-on-Sea, my place of birth, was one of those councils that remained no overall control. But they had indeed a coalition prior to this election. Now, of course, they have to renegotiate that coalition with the extra Green and Reform Party members, though Essex County Council overall went Reform. But this is a fascinating graph. It's why the complex picture there demonstrates why it is going to be incredibly difficult for Keir Starmer to filibuster his way out of this problem. It is not a simple fix. Simply promising to undo Brexit, as insane as that promise was, even if it was popular, which it isn't, it would go nowhere near the deep-rooted core problem here. There has been a complete and entire collapse, not just breakdown, a collapse in trust in the system as represented by the two political parties, the Conservatives and the Labour Party. In other words, the uni-party system. Trust in that uni-party system is finished. It is impossible to conceive of that trust returning. A series of blows that shattered trust in the uni-party system became irreversible, we'd argue, from the COVID mandate period onwards. And of course, everything that represents that globalist uni-party system, not just its two parties, the Conservatives and the Labour Party, but also its media arms in the form of media stations such as Global's LBC, that has traditionally been Labour backing, or indeed other globalist media, established institutionalized media in the UK, such as Murdoch's Times empire. They have historically of course, back the party, the establishment parties in power. All of the trust in the entire ecosystem has collapsed to a point that the insurgent parties are the ones on the rise, namely Reform and the Green Party. And we will conclude by bringing you a video by one of Keir Starmer's own Labour MPs, pretty much declaring that the time is over for Keir Starmer. It is no longer redeemable. It is finished. On your screens now. Take a look at this.
While it's happening, the Prime Minister is going. No Prime Minister can survive this many MPs losing confidence in him.
More MPs have said nothing or have shown their support than those who've said they want him to go.
I mean, it's time to be real. He's going, no doubt about it. And
that's what you want?
Yeah. And to pick up on what Nick said about the speech this morning, I thought it was, if I'm being generous, tone deaf. At its worst, I'd say it was downright insulting, because you look at those results last week, we're being swept away in our heartlands by Reform in Sunderland, Wigan, Grimsby, Hartlepool, St Helens, Barnsley, Wakefield. I could go on. And to come out in response to that and start talking about Brexit and having free movement again.
He didn't talk about free movement.
He was talking about free movement of people. He was talking about free movement of young people to go away from the country. Now, those people, they're more bothered about what's going on here. The people I represent in the towns of East Lancashire, Nelson, Colne, Clitheroe, Barnoldswick, they're more interested in here. How do I get work here so we can live our lives in this part of the country, which we love? And I love living there, and I love this country. And yes, we want to travel abroad, but for that to be the focus, when you're fighting for your life as the Prime Minister, it was absurd. And then the Scunthorpe thing, if I may just finish. I totally agree with taking it into public ownership. And in fact, most of the public thought we already had. We were talking about a technical detail here. And it just about summed it up. It was proceduralism to the very last, where he talked about it being subject to a public interest test. And I thought to myself, you do not understand my constituents.
But this
and
is
you
a
need
man...
to speak for the country, and you need to speak to the country. And I'm sorry to say, I really am sorry to say, he cannot do that.
Right.
So we need a new leader for the Labour Party, and our country, most importantly, needs a new leader.
Now, that is a Labour MP, Jonathan Hind. I mean, it sounds as if he's a member of the opposition. He's in fact an MP for the ruling governing party, Keir Starmer's Labour Party, and he has, as you heard them, as far as he's concerned, it's over. We'll end with this last slide for you, and that is our long-time listeners and viewers will know this has been our long-term view. The image on your screens now from as far back as the 18th of December 2024, and there is Nigel Farage and Andrew Fox with me in the middle. We've said in the post there, this was the scene from yesterday evening. That's the 18th of December 2024. National security check, foreign policy check, UK politics check. The Grey Cardinal and the Grey Cardinal Andrew Fox and I probably agrees with me that Nigel Farage will be UK Prime Minister sooner than most people think we are coming. And that still remains what's going to happen. It is inevitable, folks, that Farage will become the Prime Minister of this country. That post was from before he even won his election seat. But it's exactly what's happened. He then won an election, of course, in Essex. Now all of Essex is Reform, and Wales and the northern Red Wall seats have been lost to Labour. Reform has taken from the Tories as well as from Red Wall Labour voters. The Greens have taken from Labour heartlands. It is over for the establishment Uni Party. The local elections in the UK, even though traditionally local elections are lower turnout and don't get as much media attention, these local elections increased in their turnout. And the reason they've got such media attention is because just how significant they are. And that's why Keir Starmer's leadership is in jeopardy and is probably ended, because this marks a turning point in the political culture of the UK. And that's the point here. This is the end of the two-party system that evolved into the uni-party globalist state system. It is finished. The insurgent parties that question globalism on the left and the right are now on the rise and are actively stealing seats from both establishment parties. The significance of what's just happened in the UK local elections cannot be overstated, and Farage is well on his way now to becoming Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I have to go to get change and rush to the GB News studios for the Dubes & Co 1 hour slot, 6 to 7 p.m, discussing with Michelle Dewberry on GB News this exact topic. So tune in there to catch more analysis and debate. Until next week for the Warrior Creed live stream, we'll be back next Tuesday. You can get the written version of this stream on the Radical Dispatch via Radical Media tomorrow. Just go to majidnawaz.substack.com, and the premium subscribing members will get access to the podcast version of the stream, as well as the written version and the full paywall content behind the written version as well of the Radical Dispatch. We cannot do this work without your support, so we encourage you all to become paid premium members of Radical Media to support these streams and the Radical Dispatch. Just go to majidnawaz.substack.com and sign up. We'll see you next week. You've been listening to The Radical here for the Warrior Creed live stream with me, Majid Nawaz.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge. Good service announcement brought to you in part by Warrior.